Dr. Susila Nayan and friends, when the idea of an all-India Prohibition conference was mooted first, I very readily agreed with the proposal because I thought that we should demonstrate to India and to the world that all people gather together in spite of political differences for a good cause like prohibition. They are prohibited from intermingling in other political activities. But as far as prohibition is concerned, no difference of politics divides them, because from time immemorial there are only two groups of people, one who advocate good and one who do not advocate good. And this conference is a demonstration of the fact that whatever may be the political ideologies and differences, prohibition is one thing which transcends all political differences. The Mayor of Madras, in his thought-provoking welcome address, he has very clearly enunciated the theoretical basis for prohibition and its practical implications. In certain places he has made a reference to a question whether it is right to hold a prohibition conference in a dry area like Madras. But to imagine a prohibition conference in a wet area is something which would be not only ludicrous, but may become even a law and order problem. Therefore, from this dry area of Madras, dry as far as this drink is concerned, but fertile in other things. In this dry area of Madras, we are conducting this prohibition conference so that in those places where prohibition laws have been either relaxed or repealed for various reasons, they may begin to think afresh and find out the old path from which they have deviated. It would be very easy for a non-Congress man like myself to condemn Congress government for having repealed prohibition laws. But I do not get pleasure by such cheap methods. I rely upon more solid methods. And therefore, I would appeal to even the Congress government, if they are amenable to receive advice from non-Congress people like myself, that they should show a way, not only to our country, but to the entire world, that they will stand by prohibition come what may. The only criticism that is very often being trotted is that prohibition has not been a success. It is true that it is not a success with certain individuals. There are certain individuals for whom there can be no prohibition of any crime. But because of the fact that a handful of people or even a growing number of people do break the prohibition law, it does not mean, and it ought not to mean, that prohibition is a failure. It is a mighty success because we have reared up a new generation altogether, which has not seen the awkward dramas enacted before erect shops and toddy shops. My son has not seen a toddy shop. Most of your children would not have seen erect shops and the brawls around erect shops as we, when we were younger people, were unfortunate enough to witness. We have reared up a new generation, and you see this new generation itself, there are some people who break prohibition law. We can only take it as the perennial interest some people have in breaking law. Just because party was in power in our state. And when our former Chief Minister, Mr. Bhaktavatsala, conducted a prohibition conference in one of our towns in the Chengalpet district, I was asked and I attended the conference with all pleasure and I supported the prohibition policy of the Congress government then. Therefore, it gives me very great pleasure that this prohibition conference, though it is convened by me, our revered former All India Congress chief, Mr. Kamaraj, and our former Chief Minister, Mr. Bhaktavatsala, are present here this morning to give their seal of approval for this prohibition policy. Of course, when before coming to this place, when I skipped over today's morning paper, somebody from Mysore has given a figure, very tempting figure, that by scrapping prohibition, they are going to get 11 crores of rupees as revenue. Especially to a state which is beset with financial strains and stress, 11 crores is a very tempting figure. But that tempting figure dangled before my mental vision only for a minute. But after that, beyond that figure, I found weeping mothers and wailing children. People addicted to drink and letting loose their jungle spirit. And then I said, let us bid goodbye to that 11 crores. Welcome. Let us welcome happy mothers, faithful husbands, and people who are not addicted to drink. evil of the world began from intoxication, and that intoxication at that time came from a fruit. And the first intoxication came from a fruit, and the next intoxication came from the juices of fruit. And therefore, our stories, whether they are dramas or literature, wherever you find a good man depicted, he is depicted as one not addicted to drink, and invariably the villain comes tipsy, with a bottle in his hand, with anger written all over his face. Therefore, our literature, not to mention our scripture or our epics or our legends, even our modern writers depict villains as being addicted to drink and good men as not addicted to drink. I am not referring to the stage hero or stage villain. I am referring to villains and heroes depicted in literature. Therefore, it has been accepted on all hands that drink is an evil. Therefore, there is no necessity in our part of the country to go on carrying on propaganda in support of prohibition. But we should have vigilance squads all over. Whenever we find young men addicted to drink, going to take drink, vigilance squads should be ready there to give them persuasion, ask them to get away from that evil path and come to the right path. We should depict the evils of drink in various ways wherever it is necessary, through placards, through pictures, through dramatic performances, and through the age-old method of kalakshema. Through all these means, we can have this idea of propaganda for prohibition become more effective than it is today. But this kind of propaganda ought to be carried on more in wet areas, and I would consider it to be the proudest day in my life when I, along with our former Chief Minister, Mr. Bhaktavasalam, and our former Congress President, Mr. Kamaraj, are asked to lead a propaganda machinery in the wet areas of India, say Mysore or Andhra. And not only do propaganda for prohibition, if my friend Mr. Bhaktavasalam and Kamaraj agrees, we are prepared to defy the laws of the government of those states to maintain prohibition, and if Mr. Kamaraj and Mr. Bhaktavasalam and myself are jailed in a wet state, that would be the last grand fight chapter in support of prohibition. Perhaps Mr. Kamaraj has got more pressing work. Perhaps Mr. Bhaktavasalam too may have pressing work. But I would request them to take a leading part in making wet states realize that prohibition is something which has been enshrined in our Constitution, which has been left as a hoary legacy for the father of the nation. It is something about which even Western people have got something good to say to us. And therefore it is in our interest, whatever may be our pressing problem and our pressing work, to devote the best part of our life and best part of our time for the propagation to make prohibition a grand success. In conclusion, I would say that states all over India which come to applaud Madras for maintaining prohibition, they have stated that in spite of the fact that Madras is manned by a non-Congress government, we are for prohibition. I would ask them not to stub us as non-Congress, because that does not mean that we are against anything good that has been done by the Congress. If the Congress has done something good, it is my duty and it is my pleasure to maintain it